going. And yeah, as I said, feel free to add to the conversation as we're going along, because these are what I would call conversation series. I really am trying to do, I won't say things differently, but to be less of just one head talking. And welcome to you, Gina, as well. So yes, this is what I'm calling the Change Shapers Conversations series, not change makers. To me, that phrase is used a lot, could be overused, and to me, it can sound a little bit. This one person is making a change, and invariably that does happen around the world. But I like to see more of what we're doing be perhaps that idea of shaping or molding or influencing change. And in that, it may not be as quick as a change maker. It might take a little bit longer than we're expecting. That can be frustrating. Things may not go and turn into the shape we would actually like, or the make that we would like. So it might require some different skills. I'm finishing up my book called Clever Skills, which is looking at a whole bunch of human skills, but looking at some specific aspects of those skills. And I think they're the sorts of things we're having to do a little bit differently. And hence Change Shapers and more of a conversation. Love to, you are all Change Shapers. More of an opportunity to add some thoughts and comments. So this is the topic today on sense making the self, because sense making is a thing, it's a practice, and I'll talk more about it in a moment, about how we can use it. It's frequently used in business, of course, but we can use it for ourselves and what we're going through or what we're noticing. And the flower, because I'm starting to use more of my own photography in my work, and this is, I love looking at flowers and trees and nature and taking photos of flowers. And I don't know, I was just scrolling through thinking I'll choose a flower, and this one got me because I went, well, what is it? I'm not sure. Was the colour the actual colour, or have I fiddled and fooled with the filters on it? But I don't know. It was the pinky purple dark, the moodiness of it said there's probably some stuff there we don't know the details of, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that little bit of uncertainty. But I think to start off today, I love looking at the work of Hugh Mackay, who's an Australian social researcher. Imagine this is his job. All he does is talk to people all day. He's just interviewing people. Now, that would not be a good match for some people who are a bit more insular or introverted, but what a job. He gathers information from people, and his book, What Makes Us Tick, for me really sets a good frame about sense making, because of course sense making is that idea of gathering up information and connecting the dots, or seeing where's the theme or what's the thread, or my preference, where's the pattern here. So I thought let's just start with something from Hugh, such a lovely gentleman, and he's written a number of great books, but these 10 desires, and there's a chapter on each of them, just see how these roll out, that we are human because we have these desires. The desire to be taken seriously. It's like, don't you laugh at me. I'm being very serious right now. How we can be, not take offense, but we can be kind of upended or destabilized a bit if something that we're taking seriously is not being taken seriously by someone else. And we do want to be taken seriously in terms of our life and our skills and our expertise and what we've got to offer the world. We've also got this desire for my place, to know where we are. And that doesn't necessarily mean a roof over our heads, but to feel like, where do I belong? Where's my place or my space? For something to believe in. It can be hard if we're not connected into something that we, perhaps use that word passionate, but for something that we're advocating for, or something that we strongly believe in. It could be family, a network of friends, it could be a role, it could be a business idea, it could be aspiring to be, a greater sense of freedom. but something to believe in. We also are driven by the desire to connect, hence these sorts of sessions. And I love this one, to be useful, so that what I do has some meaning, that it is helping people, or what I'm doing or what I'm thinking or how I'm being is something that's useful to people. I support my elderly mum who lives independently at home. So a couple of days a week, I'll visit her and help her out with different things. And yesterday when I got there, I realised that the big heater, the house heater, wasn't working. And she had just a little heater in the kitchen. And of course, I'm not an electrician. I can't fix it immediately. We've got someone coming to have a look at it tomorrow. But I thought, well, here's 3 winter days in Australia. I better do something about this. And yeah, as you say, Fiona, that you constantly want to add value at work. And so to be useful with my mum, it wasn't just let's just sit and have a cup of tea today. I'm in the car and I am down to the appliance store, the Good Guys. And within about 5 minutes, I was walking out of there with this big heater on wheels, quick to warm up. I've plugged it in, and like mum's kitchen back room area, it's warm within like 15 minutes. And I went, yeah, that feels good today. That feels good. I think that desire to be useful, it wasn't just a social cup of tea, but I felt like, yes, I've actually been useful today. I've been able to solve a problem. We have desires to belong, and when we're not removed or maybe ejected, or we take the choice to leave somewhere where we feel we belong, wow, that can hurt. I've left a group that I was involved with for a long time, and man, I'm grieving over that. It's taken me a really long time to get over it. It's my choice. It's a hobby, an interest I have, and I just went, no, enough now. I don't think I fit in there. I don't belong there. But despite that, it's still a feeling of, okay, well, where do I belong? We also have desires for more. I think that's probably quite obvious in the world of marketing. There's a great doco on Netflix in recent times, which is about sort of marketing and more and shopping and buying. And it's just shocking to see the much more modern techniques that are being used to really strike that desire in us. Hello to all the control freaks who want the desire for control. And when that is removed or reduced or taken away from us, wow, these situations can really have an impact on us. We can also be a little bit impatient. We have a desire for something to happen. Like, come on, what's going on? If nothing's happening, it can be a bit suspicious. Why is nothing happening? Versus that extreme when there's too much happening and we can feel a bit overwhelmed. And of course, what would the last one be, do you think? What other desire might we have? Any guesses? What's a desire that might not have come up yet, but it's so obvious that it's missing?
For love.
Yes, for love. Absolutely. Spot on. For love. We have a desire for love, and how that manifests in our life, or how we go and pursue it. So go read the book by all means. Deodorant. Tell me about the marketing case study there, Fiona.
A doctor actually invented something to put on his hands so they didn't sweat while he was operating. He was actually a surgeon.
Oh, right. Yes.
And his daughter liked it and decided it would actually work really well to stop her underarms sweating. But this is back in the 1920s, where there was no one cared about smelling. Yeah. And they started a marketing campaign saying, is there something your friends aren't telling you? Actually smell, and created the desire for deodorant to sell the product they'd created that there was no market for.
So we didn't know we needed it. And there was someone
made people feel like, maybe their friends are talking about them behind their back. And next thing you know, deodorant's a bestseller. Everyone must wear it. Yeah.
There we go. And then the evolution of that. Thank you. Thanks for adding that. It is a great case study of, I think, finding you know, finding the thing, particularly if you're looking for the place that you belong or the things that you might be creating or selling. So beyond those, what makes us tick and looking at those things, they are that sort of a framework I just wanted to add here to say when we're making sense about what's going on for us, you know, that's a very big topic. Our life can be a very big topic, and to zoom in on any particular aspect of life can be, you know, the classic rabbit hole that we may never come out of that observation or introspection. But to look at it through some of the desires that we have, the motivations we want, might give us some other places to make sense. So let's talk a bit more about sense making, and we'll reveal a bit more as we go through. And I'm happy to take any comments or questions about sense making. But above all, for yourself, you are not fixed. You are not a fixed self. You're allowed to change. I've got lots of like motivational signs on my bookcase in front of me, but here's one. I am free to change. I have that there. I'm free to change. And that was from a hotel, the W Hotel in Melbourne, and their little notebook, the stroke of genius. But we are free to change. That because we have ourself doesn't mean you have to be who you've always been or be who people think you are. You're changing. You have different stories, different situations, different things going on in life. You have a whole range of different roles that you play in life. You have different responses. So I want you to, from the initial part of today, in when you're trying to work out who am I, what is the world about for me, that you're not fixed. Your identity isn't a static thing either. That's an evolving situation. You can, I won't just say be who you want to be, but your own identity evolves as things shift around you and as you know, bundle up and accumulate all the experiences of your life. So for me, this has been a little bit of awakening, or there's lots of those sort of micro awakenings. But to realize that I'm free to change. I can change anything about me. I don't have to behave in a certain way that I have previously. I just don't. This aspect of making sense of who we are and what's going on. What do you think about this? Are you doing any of this? Do you outsource the definition of who you are to other people or other systems? Right? That can be, you know, a really big aspect of who we are. And it could be that it no longer serves us. Oof. So it could be about titles or products of who we are, what we use. But also I think it can be about promises that we've made to people and we hang on to those things, or it could be opinions. We're worried about the opinions of others. All of these things can shape who we think we are. But to me, I love the word interrogation, not in an aggressive way of others, but why not interrogate our own perceptions or our own definitions of ourselves? Thanks, Fiona. So you're saying you rely way too much on feedback. Gee, I could be almost the other way around and say, when someone says, I'd like to give you some feedback, I'll be thinking, yeah, do I really want to? Yeah, okay, I'll have a listen to this and see what's, you know, see what they've got to say.
Sometimes I just keep asking though until I get the feedback I want.
Let's keep going. Beautiful. So yeah, just careful, maybe consider if you're going to do some sense making, which is connecting dots, finding some themes. Just consider, are you outsourcing or deferring to someone else about the definition of who you are? I don't know, I just feel there's a lot of this sort of shifting going on in the world, a lot of people questioning who they are, what they're about. Is this what they want to do? Is this who they want to be? How do they shift and change themselves? Which is, I think, fine in terms of going ahead and making some changes, but sometimes it helps to come back to where might I be getting some influence from? Thanks, Sarika. So you've put Marcus Buckingham the nine lies about work. Gee, are there only 9? I would have thought there could have been plenty more. But knowing Marcus, he will have done extensive research and he will have grouped them under 9 wonderful headings. Let's have a look at something else. Anybody searching for, their authentic self? Be careful. I think you might not be able to find an authentic self, but again, sense making, if we're looking at connecting dots, finding patterns, you can track some of the patterns of the things that make you feel not just good, but make you feel real. So the things you go, yeah, that aligns more to me, or that resonates more for me. To me, these are some of the things that make a lot more sense than just saying, oh, I'm going to look for something that's authentic. My headphones have just gone funny. You can still hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. And so the action question here is, what might be a match between what you believe in or what you value and what you're currently doing or what you'd like to do or what you'd like to be? It might not become apparent immediately in terms of, oh, this is authenticity, or I'm trying to be this, that, or the other. But looking at some of the things that go, yeah, that feels good. I liked doing that. That's not something I want to stop. Or I'd like to do more of that. I'd like to do less of that, rather than just being in that autopilot state. Thanks, Fiona, there. You said when you opened up about being an ADHDer, you felt like you started owning your definition. That is cool. I think we've, for so long, many of us have been either minimizing or reducing or hiding or adjusting. For me, I know I have been editing so much of myself for a long time. A lot of people would not believe that. That's right, masking. I've been editing lots of the things I would actually like to say or like to do or like to be, and I'm not. I hold a lot of things back. Again, I know some people wouldn't believe that. They go, oh, but you're so bold or strong or outspoken. I think, but that's edited. Wait till you get the real force of what's really building up here. And I had some feedback from a local artist who was mentoring me. I got to do an art exhibition last year, and she was guiding me through the exhibition process. But most of our sessions, yes, we talk about the art materials, which are sticks and branches and flowers. I love weaving things together. But she also commented on how I seem to have, as she was getting to know me more, she was like, yes, it's sort of different to when I first met you, which had more of, I don't know, I tend to call it a performance. You're putting on a performance to exist or survive somewhere, and actually it's not you. And the more that you're able to stop doing some things or start doing other things, you can begin to feel a bit more human. So that's part of sense making as well. And let's have a little bit of a look then at sense making. So Dr. Carl Week wrote a great book called Sense Making in Organisations. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy and full of research. But several years ago, after reading it and applying that information to work, I wrote the book Making Sense, a handbook for the future of work. It's mainly directed at leaders and how they might lead their team. But I wanted to make the connection between sense making, like how do you make sense of what's going on, and connecting that to the self. So this kind of process for sense making says start thinking about things, and don't just think. Don't just think. And don't just go think, oh, I'll take some action, think, I'll take some action. But go through a process of, yes, thinking, but then look at how you might map out that information. And those that know me know that I love a flip chart, and I love a whiteboard, and I love a marker, and I love an iPad and a pencil. So I love to doodle. I love a journal and a marker. And so to me, some of the best results you'll get from sense making, particularly from yourself, is when you put some ideas down. It doesn't have to be longhand written journaling like a diary. Like the Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, it can be however you like. It could be sketched, scribed, painted, woven, dot points, anything at all. It's the fact that you are getting some information out of your head. And Carl Weeks said, any old map will do. And what he found from his research was that people were able to make better sense of what was going on when information was mapped. But come back to, but what sort of map do I do? It doesn't matter. Any old map will do. And the classic story he shared from historical times was based on an army troop of soldiers who are out walking in the Swiss Alps. And beautiful, you could imagine the beautiful scenery. Well, it started snowing, and the beautiful scenery that they were looking at and the path that they were following soon got whited out, and they lost their way. I wonder how they were functioning as a team at that point. So anyway, they spent quite a cold night outdoors. They were lost. They probably had to huddle together and suffer through the evening and the snow. Well, the next morning, one of the soldiers found a map in their pocket. That would have been helpful yesterday afternoon. They get the map out, they gather around, they work out, there's a railway line just over that hill that must lead to a village. Oh, look, there's a track there. And so they were able to then walk to safety. Woohoo! The power of the map, right? The power of the map. But it turns out that map was for the French Pyrenees mountain range, not the Swiss Alps. So of course the map worked, Lynne, but when you look at the detail, it wasn't the Swiss Alps for where they were. It was for the completely different mountain range. So why did it work? I'd love to cross live now to the watch party, if you can bung the microphone on, at Faye's place. But why, any thoughts in chat, or put your microphone on, why did the wrong map, like geographically the wrong map, actually work? Like, how could that be if they were trying to work out where they were, but they still got to safety, yet they were using the wrong map? Like, why? How? Any thoughts, Ed?
Maybe they didn't really use it like a map and used it just from a direction and landscaping perspective to find a pattern, look for similarities, and then let some actions emerge out of that. I don't know, just.
Yeah, all of the above. Perfecto. Fiona, were you going to add something there?
Yeah, planning is everything, but plans are worthless.
Who was that there?
Faye, over here.
Yes.
Yeah, planning is everything, but plans are worthless. I think, I don't know, is that General Eisenhower or something, or Mike Tyson? Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. But it's like, if you make a plan, then you start your action, and then you can pivot from there.
Yeah. So you're in some sort of momentum.
Yes.
Definitely. And there was also a team of them. So, in a leadership sense, it shows how powerful gathering around a central something, a central anything can be. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's, as Carl Week says, any old map will do. So I want you to take that away today in terms of sense making. By all means, go to that cafe, sit down, have a cup of coffee, look at your phone, think, rot in bed, sit on the couch, do whatever you're doing. But there's a piece missing, and that is the map, because you can think and act, but having a map is the critical piece for most of our sense making that's missing. Yes, Sarika, exactly. Collective intelligence. So if and when you're leading a team or a group, this is where we go, well, where's the map? So the last however many years, I've been teaching lots of people how to use visuals, not for pretty pictures or not to make their writing look good, but to help you make sense of things. And then when you've got that opportunity to think, yes, go as deep as you like, but in between thinking and mapping, you can see what you're doing is visualizing something. You're starting to create something. Thank you, Fiona. You've said there, not at all useful. You once made a map of Ankara in Turkey. It was totally upside down, but it gave you questions to ask the locals. Exactly. So you had a couple of car rides with strangers, and then you found the information centre. Yes. So even a misunderstood map helped. And it's often called that third point of communication. There's what I'm thinking and speaking about. There's what you're thinking and speaking about. But the map allows us to create a whole other thing, and it helps us bounce off ideas, or in my preference, it helps you unload some of the cognitive load, the inner chaos that can be going on. So yeah, we want a map. And then once you've got the map, look what you can do between map and act is that's where the planning comes in, Faye. That's when we can start to plan and implement. And yes, things may and will change, and then you can just go back to the map. And then once you've acted, the beautiful cycle is continuing by just reflecting on your map, reflecting on the actions and learning from something. And then that helps keep the thinking and the sense making going. So it's sort of, I want to say, an accelerated understanding of how would you do sense making. There are so many different kind of theories and tools and methods. But for me, the piece that can make the quickest difference to you, maps help calm us down. So in a sense of high uncertainty, if you've got a map and you can visualize something, it starts to make things easier to understand. Thanks, Marga. Great to see you. So here's a few ideas or templates. I know that thinking for people can be helped if you've got something to follow, as much as we might say any old map will do. That first one on the top left is like that storyboard, how lots of advertisements and films are structured, is capsules of thought. So you could look at your current situation and you could write out, here's what happened, scene by scene. Something I'm trying to make sense of at the moment is something that's going on with a client. So I've used this storyboard approach to make a few notes in each of those boxes, and what that does is start to put some boundaries around our thoughts and ideas. And some of the other ones that are pretty hot, as in effective, the path down on the bottom left. So any kind of path or road that has signposts or stops. And sense making is really powerful because it helps you look back. Like you make the greatest sense in reflection and looking back. We all know we've made not great decisions. I was reflecting on previous job roles the other day. I was thinking, which jobs did I really enjoy? And so I sketched this line with stops on it, like a metro train map. And I was putting in each of the job roles that I'd had. And then I made some comments around each of the, was happy to leave that one, or could have continued working there forever, or best boss in the world, or worst boss in the world. So that kind of map can be really helpful. Let's continue around the bottom, that staircase. So if you're trying to get from here to there, if you've got aspirations of achieving something and you can see some steps, and this is something really useful. Some friends of mine are using it to renovate their home. They said, we're tackling each part of the home. And I said, well, why don't you do steps? Then you'll feel like you're getting somewhere. It has got foundation in terms of something that's structural. And then we're able to write the various tasks they've got on each one. Thanks, Faye. So what's this one you're sharing here? Tell us about it. Editing. Oh, no, sorry. What does that say?
Yeah, it says editing and authentic self.
Authentic self.
Struck me, and I thought, I'll just take a photo and stick it in the chat for you to see.
Yeah, good.
Because I hear the phrase masking a lot, and I think editing just it's so much nicer because it feels more authentic when you're masking it's hiding, but it's not. You're editing. There's always an
yeah,
edit going on.
Or Keith Johnstone, in his book Impro, he talks about censoring, and that's the next session I'll be running, which is, I've called it "Stop Pretending to Be Dull," because it's one of his phrases that he says we're all capable of this incredibly interesting, you know, being, and we're doing the editing, and that, as he says, we're censoring that. The idea pops up, but we're not letting it out. I love it. I love the connection to them, and you've got some musical notes and a bit of colour there. Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
What book was that? That was Keith Johnstone's book called Impro. She dashes to her bookshelf and rests it out. But Keith Johnstone says this about, oh, look at this, don't write in books, rubbish. Like, I just write everywhere in books, and I'm highlighting things that appeal. This book's is about improvisation in the theatre, which may not be where he said that exact phrase, but he is known for saying, stop pretending to be dull. But he would also have said, you know, stop trying to be too clever. So there's somewhere in the middle where our genius and creativity and clever is there. But more on that next week. Keith Johnstone from Impro fame. Hey, what other template have we got here? Oh, the top right one is a little bit like, if, you know, any old map will do, is just drop your thoughts on a page, is just go blah, 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 blah. And some of them will have hard connections, and some of them might have dotted lines, or you might, you know, section out that piece of information, or there might be some pieces of information that sit on their own. But these are simply templates to get you started. There are so many other sort of shapes, and I don't worry about whether I'm using a map on a blank piece of paper or paper that has lines on it. I was just looking for my little notebook here, and I'm not saying that writing in lists is not valuable either. Lists and dot points, like there's nothing kind of wrong with them. But also look at like a map that I was just making here, which is writing about skills. And so I was drawing, you know, a pie, a cake kind of look with a slice of the skill. And then down the bottom, I went with more of a, you know, a quadrant, a 2x2 kind of quadrant. So I was trying to get my thoughts out of my head. I can write them longhand, or I can think about where else might they sit? Do they sit in a particular shape? Is it just narrative? Do I just want to journal and write things? Because that can help you make sense. But I would then say, take that, and now what does that mean? So 2 key questions with sense making: what's going on? And what do I need to do about that? So what's going on is the first question. And what do I need to do about that? They're 2 of the key questions that come up for sense making. And that first question, we're asking what's going on, then you can come up with the narrative, or you might have a great long screed of information. And then we go, okay, well, what do I need to do about that? Oh, maybe nothing. Think about it some more. Talk to someone about it. Work out a pros and cons list. Take some next steps. Make a short action list, not a great big long to-do list. Guilty, yeah, I'm real guilty. We're going, I'll write, or I'll get organised, I'll get control, and I'll write down all the things I need to do. And I must track down that there's some research that says the longer the to-do list and the more you have to look down the page, the higher your blood pressure goes. So it's like, as you look down the list, oh my God, I've got all these things to do. Wow, the blood pressure goes up. So try and keep that action list shorter rather than longer. Even though we're not really trying to do productivity today, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention the map that is the to-do list. Yeah, of course. Sarika, you've got low blood pressure. Then it's only going to go to normal. That's good. Oh, good for you. Hey, let's have a look at some other questions to get you thinking. Clarity about the self. Ooh, it's not something that is found. So if you are looking for clarity like it is lost, it's not something you will find. Clarity comes about, we make clarity and we test our thinking about clarity. And we do that over and over again via sense making. We look at information, we have some thoughts about it, and we start to make sense of it. The more information comes in, we make some more sense of it. And I would say, especially during any kind of transition, I'd be interested to know if any of you have had to or think you might have to update the model in your mind that you have of who you are. Because I know I've certainly had to update the information about who I am, what I do, or how I feel, or what things are about. And especially during a transition, you might be overly familiar with a previous model of who you are. I was talking with a colleague recently, and they're still, I want to say, stuck in the job role and title that they had pre-pandemic. So they're struggling to shift their identity, and they continue to look for job roles that replicate what they are doing, what they were previously doing. Yeah, Fiona, you've had to update your mental model of who you are or what you're doing?
I think it fits into that category. I had a picture in my mind of what I had to become to be a leader, and it was very much an old-fashioned view of leadership. And I asked people to give me feedback about I asked to give 5 individual words describing me, and when I got those words, I looked at them and went, "Oh, they say inclusive and kind," and they're not, in my mind, they weren't leadership words. And I thought, I'm never going to be a leader, without changing my brand. And it took me a while I was actually seeing a coach at the time, and I talked to the coach, and she didn't say it outright, but went back to my desk afterwards, and I thought, who's a leader I really admire? And I thought about that leader, and they had a lot of those same words when I would describe them. And I realized that I had to not I guess change my definition of what I wanted to become and embrace who I was. The more, yes. And it was actually really powerful to be able to say, I am a leader, that the words I'm using are not actually about just being a team player, that they're actually maybe a different kind of leader than is traditional, because I'm talking before it became really big to be can't think of the word now, but a more giving leader. But yeah, it was like, yeah, I am a leader, just a different kind. And it was really powerful, and it became a leader in title as well as in words. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, because you're kind of challenging your own thinking. This comes to that interrogation. So you're getting some comments or suggestions or commentary, and having to integrate that, therefore making sense. So we go, I thought this, I knew this, and now I've got this extra information coming in. Oh, okay, I'm probably going to have to update the map here that I'm working on, as well as the inner map or the internal map that we're dealing with. So yeah, allow new iterations of the version of you, but also the version of the information that you're working from. And face on, that's another image. This one's what's going on and what do I need to do about it? They're those two sense-making questions. And you could apply that to a team, of course, or what do we need to do about it? I love posing that to a team or a family, a conversation, what's going on yeah, it's such a good agenda in a way. What's going on? And then what do I need to do about it? Rather than racing into, I've got to do something. The panicked, look, what do I do? What do I do? I've got to do. I've got to do. Hang on a minute. Let me work out what's going on and at various levels of my understanding, and let me make some sense here. Are there any patterns? Oh, that was good. That didn't feel so good. I like that. That was heading in the right direction. More of that, please. What's going on here? What do I need to do about that? So this getting what's called externalizing information out of our mind into a notepad, into a device, allows us to get that beautiful perspective. And that's where we're able to see the patterns and make sense of things. So really encourage you to do it for yourself, not just for what's happening at work, but for your life, particularly if you're transitioning from one thing to another, whatever that is. So sense making then, it's a practice. It's not a moment. You don't just make sense once. I hope you're making sense during this session and hearing the lovely examples and contributions. It's often here, it's ongoing, and it's shaped. So here we go, change shapers. We're shaping that sense or the identity about ourselves by the questions we ask ourselves. Or I'll have to say the conversations I'm having with myself. Voice Memo and I are great friends. I talk every day and record myself, and I talk through things as if I'm chatting to somebody, and then later I'll go, I'll delete that. I don't need that. or that's a good one. I'm going to listen back to that. So for me, I use talking to myself out loud as one of my sense-making practices. And it could be about anything. It could be something that I'm experiencing, something that I'm happy about, sad about, something I want to debrief. I'm using that as a sense-making practice all the time. So, yeah, I've left strict instructions with my husband. If I die before he does, he's just to delete all of those recorded things. I don't think they'll end up in a museum anytime soon. And the last couple of points I'd love to add on this topic is with sense making and with identity and yourself, you can be multiple things at once, right? The idea of having contradicting things to me is a feature, not a flaw. So this either or where we think, I can only do this or I can only be that. No, you can have a portfolio life and a portfolio career, the slashy. I'm a this plus a this plus a this. And I've run sessions before on being an independent worker, of working out what's the stuff I want to do. I don't have to go and be a particular thing. Thank you, Sarika. You said you're not sure who said it, but someone said the culture of an organisation is shaped by the questions we ask each other. So with the questions we are asking ourselves, it's also going to shape us beautifully. So true. And that inquiry, that's the interrogation. I would say for the self, be softer on the interrogation. Like, it's good to interrogate information, just don't interrogate yourself. You might be expressing information. Go ahead, a soft interrogation of that. Great to hear, Fiona, that contradictions are a feature, not a flaw. So trying to reduce yourself to one story or just focus on one thing or just be one role or say, 2025, I'm just going to focus on blah. I would say, are you sure about that? Maybe come to the next session on stop pretending to be dull, because just focusing on one thing sounds awfully dull. I think you're turning down a whole lot of other stuff, like turning down the volume, editing, censoring a lot of things. And then it's also limiting your ability to adapt and to grow, and that willingness and that ability to change and make sense of what's going on. So to me, it sort of would be stifling things. So, I can't do that. I made this promise to myself. I'm only going to focus on blah, which comes back to that, are you outsourcing yourself and your identity to someone else or some rule or role or someone else's opinion? And then sense making the self, I think it does help you lead, and it helps you adapt, and it helps you relate to people more effectively. Because when you're clearer about your world, your internal map, then to me, you're better equipped to be able to navigate what's going on outside. And outside can be a bit of a shit show. I love Michael Singer's work, his book, The Untethered Soul, and all of his beautiful podcasts where he speaks. You know, most nights I will listen to a Michael Singer podcast, his short-ish, I'd say 20 minutes, 30-minute presentation. I'll often drift off to sleep listening to it. But he's like, if you think, you know, you're going to change what's going on out there, no. You change what's going on in here, right? You make yourself more able to adapt and flex with what is going on out there, because if you try and change what's going on out there, you will be sorely disappointed. That's some of like the quickest, I guess he talks about that spiritual, but he says that some of the quickest way to unhappiness is to think all of these things out there are not the way I want them to be. And then we set about trying to change them, when in fact it is up here we need to be changing. And to me, sense making sense of what I'm thinking, what patterns I'm experiencing, what I'm noticing, what's going on, what do I need to do about that, the sooner I can not just get to grips with it, but have some sort of practice of working with that, the better able I will be to adapt to the shit show that's outside. Thank you. Your typing is your sense making. That's terrific, Fiona. So you're curious about the sense making helping with adaptability. You're self-aware and adaptable, sure. And your leader wants you to help others be more adaptable, and you never considered putting the two together. Well, you know, rules from improvisation, any two things can go together. Any two things. It's some of the best creativity ever. You just get two really random things, put them together. So if we put adaptability and sense making together, yeah. Or we could put adaptability and compassion together, or we could put leadership and compassion together, or we could put improv and apricots together, or we could put, you know, you could put anything with anything and make some of the best stuff. Yeah, lots to think about. And then make a map of it. Yeah. You don't want to, otherwise we'll go down the think, I better go think some more. And I totally overthink. So the sooner I can make a map and get my thoughts out, what's going on? What do I need to do about that? That's great. Yes, mind map. So any old map will do. It doesn't matter. Anything at all. Any old map. I was at a creative workshop on the weekend, and someone there is just obsessed with stitching. So she stitches with wool. She does repairs on her clothes. She stitches wool on paper. She's all these incredible things. I reckon her map would be made out of wool. Like she would make, it might take a while, but she would make a map from wool. So let me pause there, because that was the last kind of question. I always want to have some thought starters here. Which brings us back to the beautiful pink flower, which itself, you know, nature kind of goes through a process of working out what it needs to do, what's going on, and what do I need to do about it. So I think we're very much the same. So as well as some of the key points you might have made note of, what else is capturing your thoughts or ideas? Love to hear from any of you, from Trish or the group with Faye, from Sarika, from Fiona. Any thoughts, questions? I broaden it out, comments, conversations, compliments, complaints, anything at all that's on your mind that you're trying or wanting to make sense of, particularly about the self. Like we haven't talked about projects or team meetings, you know, or deadlines or that kind of worky stuff. This is more about how you might make sense of what's going on in your own world and your own identity. But you can use it for work. Anything at all? Yes. Hey, Trish.
Like, I'm glad you said that bit at the end about cells, because I started thinking about how the hell am I going to draw a map with all the stupid things that are going around in my head every day? But I think if we focus on the cells, that definitely shortens the list.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to try it. Thanks.
Yeah. And you could have, I drew one picture one time of a person's head, and I just wrote all the things that were in my mind at the time, which was pay the gas bill and, repair the letterbox and book that flight and get my flu injection. And as I offloaded what was in my mind and drew it in the head, in the shape of a head, that's what happens. We externalize what's there. So you might have you might be able to find some categories of things that help you make sense or help segregate or separate. Or it could be like in a triage system. You might have some things that are really, really, I'll often draw almost like a rainbow. It's got about 10 or 11 levels. If I think, I've got too much on my mind, what is on my mind? This, and then I draw an arc, the next bit, the next bit, the next bit. And any old map will do, right? Any old map. So I'll go blah, 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 blah is on my mind, plus this, plus this, plus this. And I've got up to 11 or 12 levels before. And I know once I get up to 11 or 12 levels and I've got that feeling of, there's too much going on. It's not just tasks I need to do, but there might be things that are really impacting my life at that time.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then other times I'll go, how many in my rainbow today? And I go, there's really only 2 or 3 things on my mind. I go, yeah, I can really feel that. It feels different to 11 or 12. Thanks, Trish. Anything else from anyone else? Any other thought? Thank you. Externalize the admin. Yeah, thanks, Fiona. Yes, it works for Sensemaking too. Externalize the map. It is easier to make sense of something with a bit of distance. It's a lot easier. Good one.
Hi, thank you very much. I really enjoy what you shared. And while I was listening to you, it was interesting that how easily we can forget about it. And then when we come into the situation, you go back to your knee-jerk reaction and then suddenly creating a long list, which I did last week, a very, very long list, like to-do list. And then after a week, I did nothing. None of them even been ticked. Looking at it, which one should I start first? It's too much here. Yep. So you cannot really choose which one from 1 million things.
Put it on a candle and move it up.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's still struggling. But I really love the fact that what is the next thing that I can do. I really love it.
To add to that, you were saying that your model, Lynn, is like, what's going on? What do I need to do about it? I added the word next.
Yes.
As I only just need to do the next thing. As something that I learned from someone that's sitting with us. You just need to focus on what's next. You need to be clear about what you're doing next, and then let either chaos reign or whatever is going to happen emerge, so that you can then decide what next.
Yes. Beautiful. And the reference in Carl Week's book on Sensemaking, he refers to the world of medical and healthcare, because there's often this looking at what is the next thing we need to do, and then focusing on that. Also, Richard de Crespigny's book, QF32, where he talked about the Airbus A330 that took off out of Singapore, and a little bolt came off the engine and flew in, and their onboard computer was just spitting out tickets of all of the problems on board. And that whole book is about, let's just take the next thing. Oh, great, we've got no oil in our hydraulics. Okay, well, we can't do anything about that. What's the next ticket? and for them to work through in such a measured way, what's the next thing to do? It's such a sort of frank way of looking at things, rather than worrying about the stuff that that is next week or next month or in 5 years' time. So, yeah, I think you bring a really great reference to what's next. And yes, another great image there from Faye. Thank you. Sort of a more integrated map, so it's showing that connection. And then Fiona said sometimes taking a step has a ripple effect. Yeah, so it can be best to see what happens. You absolutely can make steps redundant. Because you've done one thing, it might cancel out the need for other things, or it could accelerate you over some future things. So absolute, so true. But we may not acknowledge that or know that if it's just buzzing around in our head, and therefore we struggle to make sense of things. Hey, if you've got to go and give yourself a couple of minutes break before you have to do something next. But otherwise, I'll bring the session to a close, and thank you so much for contributing and participating and adding so many good, rich thoughts in such a short time. These are thought starters, conversation starters, and I'm open to hearing your thoughts or get in touch with me via my website or social media. And then, of course, the next session I'll be talking about is that stop pretending to be dull. And then the one after that, I'll be looking at what would you do for free? So not that I want you to work for free, but that question can often bring up a whole bunch of other thoughts and ideas. Thank you. Now, next and later, that's a good format, Sarika. I think I might have a map for that, 3 columns. And it's brilliant for being productive and for sense making, it sure is. And yes, it was good to see you too, Fiona. Thank you for your stories and participation. All right, folks, have a great rest of the day. And remember, you are free to change. You can change. You're allowed to. You're allowed to. See you next time.
Thanks, Lynne.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynne.